EA Sports. It's in the EA Sports. It's in the gay.
EA Sports. It's in the game.
EA Sports. It's in the EA It's in the EA Sports.
It's only a game. Why you have to be mad?
EA Sports. It's in the game.
EA
¡Imbécil! ¡Qué asco que da!
EA Sports. EA Sports.
EA Games.
Challenge everything.
Sports.
EA Games.
Kick your Xbox!
EA Sports. EA Sports. Your mom is gay.
Gemini bikin materi ini lebih seru jadi kuis interaktif.
Ikatan kovalen terbentuk ketika
Pasti ini.
EA Sports. It's in the game. It's in the EA Sport. It's in the sport.
I want my
GTV.
Unikitty.
EA Sports. It's in the
Unikitty.
EA.
Kitty.
It's in the game.
Unikitty. Unikitty.
EA Games.
Charge for everything.
EA. EA Sports. 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 EA Games. Game.
EA Sports. So the same.
It's in the EA Sports.
やめてください。